Hey, welcome back. So for those of you that watched last week's video, I finally turned my camera back into a video camera instead of a hyperlapse machine, which is good, very good. You can actually see what I'm saying and hear what I'm saying. Anyway, waffle over, apologies for last week. This week we are in the woods, and the idea was to come and photograph early signs of autumn. But inside the woods, there doesn't seem to be many early signs of autumn at all. Everything still looks very green. But yeah, just gonna have a little bit of an explore and see if anything can be seen and come up with, and yeah, I'm sure we'll find something. But onwards and upwards. Just walked into this section of ancient trees. This definitely seems to be where the giant things live. Now, definitely early, but look at these trees right here. The size of that beech tree, absolutely magnificent. And I feel like there might be a little composition here, especially once autumn kicks off, getting them roots coming up into that tree that's just absolutely on fire. But up on top of this massive rock, there is a nice beech tree. Now I'm wondering if I can compose that inner shot somehow while still getting this giant tree. Maybe trying to find a frame from over here using these roots as a leading line up into that tree. I'm not sure. Also, there used to be a hermit that lived in this rock. Paid for, I think, this is the story I've been told anyway. He's paid for by the guy that owned this land, and his life was to live in here. So as he had guests arrive and stuff, they would come and have a little look at the hermit that lived in the hole. Yeah, what a strange way to live. But yeah, I'm gonna have a little wander around and see if I can find some sort of composition. So I think I found something. Probably it's not as good as what my imagination makes it out to be. And it would be amazing if we were in full autumn colours. But we're not in that either. On the back of my camera, what I've decided to do is base the shot on the histogram. I'm going to try and take this in one image. I don't want a bracket, don't want anything overcomplicated. I've shot it, I've framed it, so I've got the roots coming up from the bottom here, leading into this rock, leading into this rock, leading into the big rock, with the tree and the rock as the focal point at the end. I've also lined up, so I've got trees on this side, trees on this side, framing that final piece, giving depth within the scene, and it should be nice and simple. So my idea is I'm going to capture this one shot, dodge and burn to create that depth and to give more interest. I've got a nice side light coming through and it's hitting that rock and hitting that tree at the end. I'm going to leave everything quite dark and dramatic in the foreground. But I'm going to capture this one image, 2-second timer on there, nice and simple, boom. And there it is on shot. Again, way underexposed to make sure none of the highlights are blown out. But imagine this in autumn with bright orange leaves up on the rocks and stuff. It will look so much better. Anyway, I will see you at the next composition. So autumn is definitely not quite here yet, but not all is lost for this photography shoot. We're going to head down now to a little beck that runs through the middle of this wood. And fingers crossed, with a little bit of water flow, a little bit of editing, we can create some really nice shots. Again, one of the things that is really good about today is the fact that there isn't any real bright light coming through. What's happening is the clouds are acting like a softbox, which is dampening the light, so it's lighting everything equally. So the shadows and the highlights are not too contrasty, so it makes the whole editing process and turns these images, it helps turn these images into something much nicer. So when you are coming into woodland, unless you've got that soft light of the sunrise or that soft light of the sunset, it's definitely best to come in an overcast day like today. and the little beck is looking beautiful. I'm a little bit disappointed. I was hoping, because this might be at the edge of the water and the trees, there might be a little bit more of an autumnal feel in the water. But the trees seem to go right over the top. But there are slight hints of autumn. So if you look just up here, I've got these very early leaves turning there on the beach. And when this place is in full autumn, I keep saying full autumn and part autumn, but when it's in full autumn, it will be something real special. See, it's always little moments like this where I wish I had a drone. Can you imagine just a slow drone shot traveling across the water up to these rocks up here? Looks kind of like a turtle's head coming out of the ground with the tree growing on top of it. Looks absolutely awesome. In fact, I'm going to attempt to make that shot using slow-mo on this. Let's see. It might look terrible. I apologize if it looks terrible. Here we go, into the scene. So I may not have mentioned before, but I am not alone on this adventure. We also have Pauline over here. Gives a wave. Yeah, that's Pauline. It is not in hyperlapse. Thank you for checking, though. I'm thinking about using Pauline as a little bit of a focal feature, because I don't have them big, powerful autumnal trees down here. But I have got Pauline. And she's wearing some lovely colours of mustard and white and blue. I'm thinking of putting her just up here, having the green rock frame on this side, the green rock frame on this side, a nice expanse of water leading through with some nice droplets of water landing on it, which might make it a little bit of foreground interest. And just Pauline with the most autumnal leaf we can find, holding that in her hand and almost placing it on the water, and that being the shot, like almost giving life to that autumn feeling, giving, you know, spreading that autumn feeling through the water. I don't know, it might look okay, it might look better in my imagination, but there's only one way to find out. I'm thinking at 24 to 70, not too tight, but a nice portrait angle, shooting across the water. Pauline off to the right, so the water's leading around into Pauline, and yeah, framed on both sides. It might look good, but what I need to do is get set up, so I'll see you when I'm done. So as you can see, it's pretty much out of focus right now. I've got this lovely section of water down here, and I'm thinking I'm going to have the polarizer on so that I'm getting more of the fact that water droplets landing on it. Or let's take it off just a little bit more, but just off to the right hand side to balance against this light patch here and this light patch. So I've almost got a light patch guiding around into that scene. I'm going to have Pauline stand on just the rock on the other side of the river. So the water's guiding around this way into Pauline as a focal point just there. What she's going to do, she's going to crouch down. So if you can crouch down for me, Pauline. That's it, but sort of turn your body to this way a little bit. That's it, side on. And then I'm going to make sure it's nice and focused on Pauline. I'm going to look at my exposure, and I'm going to underexpose, because Pauline's got quite a bright hat on. She's really going to stand out, and I don't want her to be blown out at all. No information lost. Okay, so this exposure is going to be for her face, and then I'm going to drop that exposure. Now I'm just going to get a nice long shot of the water. And because I'm going for quite an ethereal look, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a longer exposure as possible of the water to see if I can get a nice, smooth, ethereal look to that water. So I'm going for a 3-second ISO 31 on f11. And then what I'll do is I'll add Pauline to that shot, or I'll go with a slightly faster exposure. But yeah, I think it's time now to go for a little wander and see if we can get something else a little bit further up. So we found our way to the bottom of Falling Foss, and Falling Foss is probably the most autumnal thing we have found so far, because look at the pile of leaves that are very gently spinning around at the bottom. And I wasn't thinking I was going to film this bit here because it's always really popular, there's always large groups of people, and I always get really nervous of talking to cameras in front of people because they look at you a bit funny, like, what are you doing, weirdo? But I'm not a weirdo, I'm a landscape photographer, just letting you know. Anyway, so the leaves are about to come into the perfect line for what I'm looking for, and I'm wanting them pointing towards that waterfall. So I'm gonna stick this down just here, and then, so the first thing I'm doing is I'm making sure that this is not in the way, and I'm not gonna get too many splashes on my lens. So I'll take that down. So I'll focus onto the waterfall. The leaves are about to come into the position that I want them to be in. So for this bit, I'm up for a 6-second exposure. There we are, so I'm gonna let that 6 seconds go. I don't think the leaves were quite in the best place for that, so I'm gonna wait a little bit longer, wait until the leaves are in the right place, and then capture that shot again. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to expose for the highlights at the top of the waterfall so no information is lost. So I'm going to drop that exposure down, looking at the histogram to make sure I lose no information. But this is the long exposure with where I'm capturing them leaves moving through the foreground. And then this is the shot with the highlights at the top exposed properly. We're going to head a little bit higher and we're going to go see if we can find another section of river a little bit further up that also has an autumnal feel. This is the most autumnal that we've found so far though. Wouldn't you agree? Yeah. That was a nod from Pauline. She concurs. But gives me high hopes for the future. It really does. But my God, it is chucking it down. So yeah, we're gonna head higher and we'll see you a little bit further up. So again, another bit of an unusual vlog really. None of them seem to be following a pattern, apart from landscapes and cameras and taking images. But yeah, now we're off in another little part of the woodland, which is absolutely mind-blowingly beautiful. But I think because I've got my 3 images, 3 quite different images to be fair, I think I'm going to call the vlog here. Maybe carry on exploring for a little bit longer, because it is beautiful. And autumn has barely started. And I can just see potential after potential after potential in this place. It's just really, really pretty. It's like, look at that beech tree there. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but beech is my favourite. I think I should put out a t-shirt that just says beech is my favourite. Definitely seems to be a bit of a quote, autumnal time of year. But yeah, anyway, waffling. So 3 different images, 3 different feels, the hunt for autumn. Success, I think. And the final image definitely had the most autumn, wouldn't you say? Autumn, the last image. Like Pauline's very autumn, wouldn't you say? Autumn colours? Meh, maybe. But yeah, what a day. Another lovely day. And I'm glad that you guys have decided to come along. If you've made it this far, thumbs up from me to your channel. And yeah, enjoy your week. That is going to be all from me this week. Peace out, peeps.
If you talk all the time, you'll never hear what anybody else has to say. And therefore, all you'll have to talk about is your own conversation. The same is true for people who think all the time. That means, when I use the word think, talking to yourself. Subvocal